Hello history students. I'm going to talk to you about how to answer a factors question, which is a very important question in regards to the history GCSE. It's worth 16 points plus 4 for spelling and grammar. The particular question we're going to answer is, was chance a main factor in the development of vaccines between 1880 and 1900? Right, I prepared a few things to help. The one thing I've done is I've looked at this big, horrible, in-depth document about how to mark this, and I've tried to make a really simple marking criteria which anyone can understand without, without reading it again and going over it. The first thing you have to do, say I've got a student's answer in front of me, say this is a student's answer, you have to level it, and there are 4 different levels, and the levels are based on basic, which means identifying evidence, material and features; simple, where someone describes evidence, material and features; developed, where there's more than one step of reasoning. By that it means you may describe something but then go a little bit further, go a little bit deeper. And then complex, where you build on your developed reasoning and you show links, you show connections, and when you're later on, maybe in year 11, you judge issues, evidence and interpretations. This gives you a range of scores, and this is a particular range of scores for the factors question. If you get a level 1 for the basic, for identifying things, you get between 1 and 4. Level 2 is 5 to 8. Level 3 is 9 to 12. Level 4 is 13 to 16. So how can I help you to try and go from level 1 to level 2, level 2 to level 3, so on? If we look at these words, identify, that just means say what something is. So just as a little example, I've looked at this factors question we're looking at today, and I've said chance was important because the chicken collar bacteria was left out accidentally. That just identifies something that happens with no real explanation. If we go on to level 2, chance was important because as the chicken cholera bacteria was left out accidentally, it weakened the bacteria. So that's going on to like a little bit of description there, isn't it? We go further on. Chance was important because it was responsible for the chicken cholera bacteria being left exposed to the air. Pasteur's associate did not throw the chicken bacteria away, and instead injected it into chickens. The chickens did not get ill, which helped Pasteur's team to work out how to weaken other bacteria. So that's taking on the development, and it's going a little bit deeper, explaining a few more of the implications of leaving the chicken bacteria out in the open air. Then I've got the complex one. Chance was important because as Pasteur's associate left the bacteria exposed to the air, it weakened the bacteria. When the weakened bacteria was injected into chickens, they did not get ill. Furthermore, when strong cholera bacteria was injected into the same chickens, they still did not get ill. This demonstrated that the weakened cholera bacteria meant the chicken could defend itself by producing antibodies, and these antibodies would be equally effective against a full-strength dose of the disease. This demonstrated a way of weakening other bacteria before injecting them into the host animal, and meant that vaccines and inoculations became a lot safer. So that's the important point there. You see how the levels of answers develop deeper explanation. Spelling and grammar, something interesting in there. Basically it goes from 0 to 4. 0 is nothing makes sense, there's no answer. None of us are going to do that. Level 1, learn to spell, punctuate and use grammar with reasonable accuracy. Limited range of specialist terms. So alongside the improvement in learners spelling, punctuating and using grammar is the use of specialist terms. It goes from limited range of specialist terms, good range of specialist terms, wide range of accurately used specialist terms. So these are our keywords. If we can start using our keywords accurately and as many as possible, getting them in there, then it's going to make whoever marks it think that you're going to be getting 3, 4 maybe on spelling and grammar to top that score up. Okay, so we're going to actually look at what we're doing today. I hope you understand a little bit better how it's marked. You've all read this, or you're going to read this, and I've read this as well. Usefully, page 52 and 53, the stuff is actually split up into the boxes we're going to be looking at today anyway, so it's not going to be that hard to do this, is it? I've done one earlier because I didn't think it was very, very interesting just to watch me reading a book. So I've actually done it myself. Green is Pasteur, pink, Robert Koch, black pen's just general. So I've looked at religion, not really important, chance. We've got to look at chance. I've also done this template of your paragraph, which we can write on using highlighters or whiteboard pens, because it could just be wiped out if you've done it wrong. You can just rearrange it. It's a useful way to work without worrying too much about what's committed to paper. The first paragraph in a factors question, if you remember, has to be the one stated in the question. And our question is, was chance a main factor in the development of vaccines between 1800 and 1900? 1880, apologies, to 1900. So this one has got to be about chance. Which unfortunately in the book, I couldn't extract much information about chance, and if you can do better then that would be fantastic. Basically, I've talked about the weakened chicken cholera vaccine, which is the work of Pasteur and his associates. Although I've cheated a little bit, but I think it's worth it for contextual knowledge. I've gone back and I've thought about Pasteur's work on beer and wines, where he was asked to work out why they went sour. And that, it's chance that he looked at that and he thought, you know what, I think I've figured out why beers and wines go sour, but does this explain a lot of other things in the world? Does this have applications for medicine, for health? You know, so that chance thing that was given that job led to a lot of developments in medicine that have been hugely important to us. As the chicken cholera, being weakened by being left out, did the same thing. So we've got to talk about that one. We can now start transferring the information. When we read through this, we can start scribbling down our notes. We're going to mention work on wine. So we're kind of organising our paragraphs now. Work on wine and chicken cholera, because that's how chance has affected the development of vaccines. Unless you can tell me some more, which I hope you can. So let's look at the others. There's absolutely nothing on religion, so we're not going to talk about that much. There's not much in government, but it is very important, I think. It says that both Pasteur and Koch's work were paid for by their respective governments. Also, you can put in a sentence somewhere about science and technology allowing the work to be spread, but I don't think either of these two warrant a paragraph of their own, but you can stick that in somewhere in one of your other paragraphs if you want to as contextual knowledge. So I've looked at war. There's quite a lot of general stuff about war, and then there's quite a lot of individual genius stuff obviously around Pasteur and Koch. Now the way I thought I'd want to do it is I'd want to talk about war next. So using this, I'm going to translate this onto there in kind of the order I want to talk about it in my paragraph, and because you can just wipe it off, you can always change it, so there's no risk of writing anything down here. So just write away, rub out what you want, rewrite what you want. Hopefully you'll come up with a nice essay plan based on your factors web. Rivalry. Well, Franco-Prussian War. War between France and Prussia between 1870 and 1871. Prussia won. Based on the war, it united Germany. So Prussia, which was a big powerful state in Germany, then became the most important state in the country, the whole of which was called Germany. Before 1871 there was no country called Germany. There was just lands where Germans lived. So Franco-Prussian War is hugely important, so we're going to have to talk about that. In the war, they worked out that more soldiers were actually dying from disease than were dying from battlefield wounds. This includes partly like a wound which is going septic, you know, because of infection in a wound, but partly because of, and a large extent, due to diseases which just become more rife in war because people are in close proximity. They had a huge smallpox epidemic during the Franco-Prussian War, which spread across a lot of Europe, especially France and Germany, where the war was happening. So there were deaths from illness during war, and this got governments interested in, well, how to protect their soldiers. It's not a very efficient way to wage war if more of your soldiers are going to die from disease than are from enemy action. So deaths from diseases led governments to invest in preventing disease. Also, an important thing, Robert Koch was a surgeon during the Franco-Prussian War, so it very personally affected the way he looked at it. So he must have seen these people dying of diseases. He's already a talented surgeon and doctor. So Robert Koch was a doctor during the Franco-Prussian War, and the fact that France and Prussia becomes Germany, were at war meant that Pasteur, who was French, and Koch, who was German, felt rivalry to go along with this war, because once it ended, that doesn't mean the bad feeling went away as well. So because of the Franco-Prussian War, Pasteur and Koch always felt like rivals, and that's something that we can go in about an effect from war. So this one is war, this one is chance, and this one I'm going to put as individual genius. I'm not running out in full because it'll just be big and take a long time. It's easy to choose which paragraphs to write, or what to write your paragraphs on. As you see, there's a bit around there, we've got to write about that. Nothing religion, not much there, but lots individual genius or war. So the factors web really helps you to decide which things you're going to write about. Also, because we've got these lines, we can show the link. There's a link between individual genius and war, because of the war, Pasteur and Koch, two individual geniuses, felt a lot of competition. Because of the war, governments started to invest in finding out why so many troops died. Governments then started giving money to the individual geniuses. So this kind of factors web like this goes a long way to making a visual representation of these things to help us understand, I hope anyway. So, individual genius. You got Pasteur, who realised his work on liquids going sour developed into germ theory. He realised that germs might be responsible for a lot more than just making your beer get sour. You got Robert Koch, who was a very impressive doctor who basically looked at Pasteur's germ theory and then went to see if he could better it. He wanted to do better, and you had this like tennis game effect where, for instance, this is what I put down in here based on this book, Koch's team discovered the anthrax virus. They isolated, not virus, bacteria, the anthrax bacteria. So Pasteur's team went and developed a vaccine for it. Then Koch's team went and they developed vaccines for two huge killers of people in the 19th century that caused a lot of suffering in Europe. One of which was TB, which is a chest disease, which cough blood, and the other is cholera, which we should have looked at with John Snow. Not the one who knows nothing, John Snow the doctor. So we've got our information in these. The trick is, and the points are, in the conclusion. Now, a good way of concluding your work is to look what the situation would have been if one of the factors wasn't there. So if chance wasn't there, if the chance of Pasteur not being given that job looking at wine and beer, or if the bloke hadn't used the chicken cholera vaccine and had thrown it out, would that have had a big effect? Now I think it would have had a big effect, but I still don't think it's the most important factor. I think all of these things we've written here, personally in my opinion, were big factors. But what would have happened if there hadn't been a Franco-Prussian War? Well, a huge thing would be the governments of France and Germany probably wouldn't have invested in the same ways that they did in Koch and Pasteur's work, which that would have had an effect as well, wouldn't it? Individual genius. Without Pasteur, without Koch, what would have happened? I think without Pasteur, this is how I'm going to conclude my piece of work. Without Pasteur, well, there's no germ theory. Without germ theory, then Robert Koch, even if he does want to work on vaccines in the way he does, he's got to do all that work himself. So without Robert Koch to work on Pasteur's theory as well, there's a lot of work to be done. I think it would have put things back hugely. So what I would conclude in mine is, where chance has played a big part, where war has played a big part, you've needed the individuals to go ahead and capitalise on these things. So you're going to get a chance to see my model answer. and make something of that before you go on to make your own. I hope this video has been helpful. I'm going to sign off now, if I can get out. Bye bye.